If you're there, maybe you're wondering what the heck it's a live remote producer. And believe me, my mother doesn't know what a live producer does or is. Okay? So if you want to know, please stay there because in a while, me and Gabby and me, we will be talking about everything you need to know about this new work, which is so amazing, so insightful, and also, I think I can say this, also so profitable. So stay tuned because I will be back in a while. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another the Special Marketing Live Show episode. Today it's a really special episode because one of the things we have in mind when we are children is what I will gonna do when I'll grow up. I'm gonna be a fireman, a policeman, a teacher, a doctor. But believe me, for instance, when I finished my grade, I didn't even know that this remote live producer will exist. So this is a really new profession, a really new job, and today we're going to talk about it. But before that, just let me give a big shout out to our sponsor, SE Ranking, which is an amazing tool so you can find the right keywords, what people are searching on Google, so you can bring this content also. And let me share this secret with you. You can see what your competitors are doing, how their websites are performing, which keywords they are performing better, so you can hack a little bit your work. So if you want to take a look at SE ranking, you have a link on the description of this video so you can try SE ranking. And let's see who's there. Okay, so we have, oh, Gabby is there. Oh my god, I can't
Um,
believe
uh,
Gabby
um,
is there in the comments. Hello, hello Chris, hello Tegan, hello Carinder. So good to see you. So without any delay, let's bring to the studio Mr. Gabby. He's on the basement as usual with the glass of water, two cookies. Okay, I'm gonna I'm negotiating so I can bring better cookies like these sheep cookies with these chocolate chips because they taste really well. But right now we are going in the wealthy way. So let's bring Gabe to the show. Hello.
wow. Wow. Thank you for the fanfare. That's pretty awesome. This
Yes,
is what I love about production, right?
yes.
This is
So
like
do
what
you know
go ahead.
I was willing to have this fanfare music and I didn't found anywhere. So finally, I don't know where I found it, and I say I need to have this on my show.
Well, it's wonderful. I love those things about what production can do and what we're going to be talking about today, right? With remote production. Um, so really quickly, let me introduce myself. My name is Gabe or Gabe. There's a story behind that. I will share that one day with everybody. I go by both, but I am a not only a remote producer. I'm also a content creator on LinkedIn, and I'm also a curator of live shows. So what I do is I compilate a daily live streaming guide on LinkedIn to kind of highlight a lot of these amazing creators that are out there, putting out good work, that are actually out there sharing information, topics, discussions that can really add value to somebody who's looking for this sort of information out there. So I put that together because I think it's a great way to spread this network and kind of get more eyes on live streaming, which is a passion for me, and making sure that people understand and know the value that live streaming has. So that's what I do. That's who I am. And, going forward, I think more than anything, I'm going to be working a lot more on just finding more people working on the production side, doing that thing. I will still do like in front of the work camera. You got to still be in front of the camera if you're a live streamer, right? I mean, that's part of it. So,
Yes, indeed.
but it won't be as heavily as what I used to do, because I used to do an every night show. That was kind of hectic, doing it every night, night in, night out for, I did it for 3 seasons. So almost 2 years that I did live streaming like that. So it was a big undertaking, but a lot of experiences that I learned, a lot of things I would not change about what I've done. So it's really great. And people are starting to discover more and more the value in creating your own show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for introducing, because you just eased me my work. Thank you so much. And we have Arnaldo as well in the house. Olá, Arnaldo. Que tal? From
Thank
Rio de
you.
Janeiro. We are
Yes.
we are we
International
are being
here.
seen. Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, it's so amazing. And Tegan said that was dope. I think it was about the sound. And Gabe, I have to make you the question, because this usually it's so funny how we got into live streaming. How was with you?
Oh,
How was your first time?
oh no. Well, I got into it because I, number one, wanted to, believe it or not, Marco, I wasn't always the most camera ready person. I was always shy. I stood in the background. Yeah, right. Hello, that was me. And one day I decided to challenge myself and do something different. So I turned on a camera, like um, my laptop camera, as a matter of fact. I turned on my laptop camera, um, got started using one of the broadcasting tools that I'm about to go into, turned it on. I didn't know about lighting. I didn't know about any of that. And I just kind of put a sheet behind me, turned on it, dark lighting, everything else, and just started talking. And that kind of vaulted my journey going forward in wanting to kind of get better at it, because I started seeing other individuals doing live streaming and kind of said, you know what, I want to kind of take this task on of getting better, to understanding the a lot of the points that a lot of people now know that it's more commonplace, with how to do lighting, how to do audio, how to your camera, setting up your camera, where to position, all the things that go along with that. I took on the challenge to go learn how to do all that stuff on my own. So uh, I tell everybody out there who wants to really get into this, um, it's when you find the passion in it, it becomes one of those things that you find everything and everywhere and all the information you can get, and become uh, more skilled. More you get, not just more skilled, but you also get more. Um, I say therapy out of it more than anything, because of the conversations that you get to start having with people if you do interview shows and meet new people. It gives you a lot of different things. So there's so many things apart from that you can get into when you start live streaming. So I tell people now, take the jump. If you even intrigued or have an interest in it, um, information is now a lot more readily available than it was 2 years ago, right? I mean, you find, and technology has kind of caught up with the streaming world, so it makes it more. It makes it a lot easier for people to kind of get into it, because before, if you had to do it and you wanted to get in, you wanted to start using something like OBS, if you knew nothing about OBS, it's going to complicate you. You probably were going to give up, because like, oh my god, what is bringing in a source, screen transitions, all the other stuff that goes along with trying to learn something. It's a really great tool, don't get me wrong. You invest the time into really learning how to kind of learn its functionality, but starting out, and if you're not ready to chase that, it's just going to complicate you, and it makes a lot of people just step away from what could be something really great for them.
Yes, absolutely. Because I have to mention this. When I started in 2015, I think, yes, it was one of the things by those times, OBS was even more a thing, because it was kind of the only player in the field.
Yeah.
And I downloaded. I took a look at that, and I said, "Oh my god, I can't work with this because I need to make a master degree or a PhD to work with this." So I drop it. I went to I think I went to Be Live because I
Yeah.
by those days was kind of
Hmm.
the only one of the only platforms in
Hmm.
internet we really to use and set up, and those banners in the screen where
Yeah.
and oh my god, I love to see my name there. Oh, so but then when I got a LinkedIn Live, I had to use RTMP credentials, and OBS was one of the few platforms free which allowed
Yeah.
that. So I had to, and the thing is, by those days it was really easy. And for instance, now I'm using OBS. I'm using OBS as a virtual camera, and yes, but at the beginning, yes, I don't recommend as
So that's
no.
why like I introduce people to like starting with some of the other broadcasting tools that are now available that kind of have user-friendly interfaces, like with StreamYard and Restream. They kind of
Yes.
simplify the process of getting in there, and once you know mess around with it a little bit, it's kind of easy to master, well, not master, but at least understand it a lot better and have a lot
Yes.
more knowledge, working knowledge of how to use the instruments and the tools that are there in it. But that's part of where, in learning how to level up your streaming game and how to get uh, more technical with what you're doing, right? It's taking those next leaps of wanting to do, and that's where kind of what we're going to today, what remote producing has become. So this is an emerging sort of market now, um, because of 2020 and COVID. It really sped up not only the technology but the need for individuals to kind of do this. Because it was a lot of things where there were a lot of corporate companies that were needing to do this, but they didn't have the time to invest in the learning and taking the time to do these things. So that's where individuals who have the skills and learn how to put these things together started working and creating a field that kind of fit that need for those individuals. And to me, that was that kind of generated the market and started putting things forward for people wanting to learn how to remote produce. So essentially, a remote producer is somebody who can create, build your production. They can literally host your show, and they kind of guide you as it is a producer on how to become a show host. So essentially, your remote producer can handle all the other things that you may or may not want to deal with in creating a live show. So if you're just
Absolutely.
concentrated on having the conversation with somebody and you want to just have that banter back and forth between your valued guest and their time, if you don't want to spend the time clicking through comments or pulling through questions or looking through all the other things, you want to feel engaged in the conversation, that's what a remote producer can come in and become like a level showrunner. So showrunner just comes in there, and that's what they do. They handle the transitions for you, the comments for you. They can load up the banners. They can bring in comments. They can do just a lot of the small general things that you may not want to handle while you're having the conversation. So that's kind of like I would say it's an entry level sort of way into getting into remote producing. Um, because again, it's not so much you're doing a lot of the creation side. It sounds like what it is. You're running the show for them. So you guys take cues together. You guys do all these other things that kind of go along with what you have the rapport with your host, and you work out a well. I recommend everybody getting a run of shows so you kind of there's no confusion on what you want, responsibilities, and laying out, you know, sort of an outline of how you want the show to go. Because again, this is becoming where you're paying somebody to do this. So it is time and money that you're talking about. So you want to be able to maximize that. So I think having a good relationship with whoever your client is and you're working with, even as a showrunner, is pretty important. You know, so that's for me where if you're jumping into and you want to get into, see if you can do that and help somebody else out. Learn how to do, at least master how to use these interfaces with StreamYard and Restream, or even in bringing in things like OBS through a virtual cam, right? Bringing in all of these things for the host so they don't have to do this. They just actually just come in, start the show. Here's your show notes. Let's go. You know.
Perfect. Yes, yes. And I was thinking about and making an analogy with sports, because this is something that usually people think when you were a player and then at the end of your career, you become the
Perfect.
coach. The
Yes.
good thing about this is that you can be player and coach at the same
Same
time.
time. Yeah. Hey, there are those. There's still those in
Yeah.
soccer. You can get
And I think I was thinking while you were speaking, even though it's not crucial to be a live streamer to become a producer, I think it's crucial to be a live streamer to become a great producer. Because one of the things, and if you don't mind to talk about it, is most of the times people are nervous, are anxious, because going live, it's still something scary, spooky. Oh my god, what they are thinking about me? Oh, do I look good? Do I look okay?
yeah.
Oh my,
Well, you're heading the right way, right? Because you're taking a lot of the other things that they might have to worry about off their plate, so they can, if they need to, just focus on the conversation and what I need to kind of draw information or having the questions with this guest here, uh, because you want to give the best presentation to your audience that you possibly can, and I think that's where a lot of it lies. So even in having something as simple as a showrunner to kind of handle everything, it is a big load to take off the weight of a host so that I don't have to worry about my scene transitions. So if I have overlays, if I have pre-rolls or have anything set up in there that I want to put in my show, I don't have to control those. I don't have to go look off screen, turn to the side, look at a comment. Like, you get to center focus on your camera, on your conversation, and you get to really connect with your audience. And it kind of it also gives a value to your guests as well, that you're actually engaged in listening into the conversation. So I think those are very, very valuable assets that somebody can provide to you as a showrunner. And I tell people that's probably the easiest way to break into doing this, is to start practicing with somebody, get into the habit of what it is to kind of become a showrunner, because then that's going to lead to the other step. The next one is when you get a little bit more advanced, and then this is where I call you become a quote unquote remote producer, because at that point you're pretty much handling everything for the host. So you come up with the run sheet, you come up with sort of the outline of the show, you make sure that all any pre-roll video intros that you have, any sort of banners, any sort of event leaks, anything that you're doing, you're putting all this together for them. So you're pretty much handling the whole load of the show, except you just won't be on it. You will be controlling it from behind the scenes. So it is the whole process of creation. It is the process of creating the show. It is everything involved for um, pretty much creating your own production of a live show. It's just you're not the host. You're handling everything else. So that's a lot of work. And this is why it's become a valued asset, because a lot of these companies that are using them in virtual events, right? So now they're kind of doing hybrids. They're doing in-person and virtual events at the same time. So as a remote producer, you're handling the virtual aspect of it, and you're creating everything, and you're making sure, and you're coordinating with whoever's in charge of the event or the host itself or whatever it is. You make sure that you have good communication. You make sure that you have everything taken care of, because it's the last thing you want to do as a remote producer, is to make mistakes, to have errors because you didn't go over You didn't go over a checklist beforehand, you know. So that's crucial. These are things that people don't know yet. Is as a producer, those are having a run a show, having a checklist before you go live. Hey, is my camera, audio, run through? It's just like if you were doing an event in person. You would check all the same things. You would check all the boxes. If everything's okay, no sweat. You go live, you're good, you know. But it's everything that goes around becoming a producer. And for those who are sort of intrigued about wanting to become one, um, you know, if you're doing your own show, first of all, practice a lot of things that you do and experiment with what you do. This is how I did it. I mean, I was actually having my own show, Marco, and I was inviting guest hosts to host my show, and they would invite their guests, and I would handle everything. This was my practice. So there's episodes where I wasn't even included in the show. I just handled everything from there. So it was, you know, creating the templates and the overlays and all the other things that could go along with creating the show and how you wanted to produce it. And that was practice for me. So putting in that way and getting more familiar with how to deal with clients and people and that sort of thing, those are the skills that you can take away from being just starting out as just a live streamer and saying, you know what, I can, you know, I can practice my craft. That's how you get better, is practice and practice and practice. Because things change once you start bringing in things like money into the equation. Then people start giving you expectations of what I want. Hey, this is what I want. This is what you're dealing with. It's like anything. It's like sales or anything else. You have a client now that you have to satisfy. So be sure that, and this is something that I'm working on as well, is to try to build a remote producer certification, you know, to kind of work people through not only practicing, but courses and things that they can get familiar with in handling all the things that go along with it. So it's not just the turning on the camera and saying hello for that. It's doing the scheduling. It's sending out the emails, the links, making sure that there's confirmations for everything. You'll learn everything that you need to do to become a professional remote producer. And I think that, you know, for a lot of people out there who are, as we're talking now, that are starting to kind of dip their toes in the water because they're seeing this as becoming something that's viable now, which it wasn't as big as of a deal just a year ago.
Yeah.
You know,
Indeed.
COVID changed everything.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, for instance, if I talked about this here in Portugal, I think they will laugh at me because they cannot believe that I they can't believe that, that one of the things I do for a living, it's right, just
It is being a remote producer, and they're like, what do you do? And you come,
and what if one of the things that for me it's kind of, I don't like to see this because I don't know. I think you already saw this as well. Is when you see people talking about live producing and talking about the prices.
mm-hmm.
Oh, I won't be charging much because I'm just clicking buttons.
No. So this is a big issue, Marco, that I'm trying to pull back the curtain on, right? Because I'm telling people now, this is becoming something that's growing and emerging. So, you know, the thing is, people feel it's taboo to talk about that. Oh my God, I'm just, again, a showrunner, just somebody who's clicking buttons, right? That's all I'm doing, right?
Yeah, yeah, clicking buttons. No
You're
big deal.
still adding a value to somebody. You're still an asset. You're still a value that somebody is actually needing that, right? And it's okay. You go do the DIY route if you don't want to spend the money. But I'm telling you, it's becoming more and more common to start seeing people uh, becoming remote producers. So I'm trying to tell people it's okay to charge this much. It's okay for you to say they do it in every other. They do it in social media marketing. I mean, 10 years ago, social media marketing wasn't what it is today because there wasn't as many social media platforms. It wasn't, figuring out how to maximize SEO. It wasn't all the things that go around in doing this. And this is what remote producing is starting to grow into. It's becoming an emerging field. So it's time to start putting a baseline on what pricing, what to charge, what to do. Because again, if you're going to be getting into this, you got to make a living wage, and you got to be able to say, "This is my career. This is my career, and I'm really going to create in it." You know what? You have to be forthright of what you're going to spend. And somewhat, you know what? Some people might say that's just too expensive. They might balk at it. Okay, well, you're not the right client I need to work with. Then I need to keep searching for somebody that will. And in a year or two, whenever they start realizing that that's the going rate for most producers, then they'll be like, holy crap, I messed up. I could have had a
Yeah.
really good deal, working a really good relationship with a really good producer back then. So I'm telling people, like, hey, look, starting out is like, even a showrunner and running a show, you're talking anywhere from, and this is going to be shocking for folks, so hold on, bite your towels, but you're talking about anywhere from $250 to $300 per episode. This isn't cheap, folks, because they are providing a service and they're doing things for you. And it only escalates higher as you become a full functioning remote producer. You know, there are levels, and if you want to know like what, and people are really, I like the way there's a woman named Stephanie Liu who has been doing this and doing live streaming and social media marketing for a long time, and she broke it down in one of the best ways possible. And I've even kind of evolved it a little bit, but she like broke down like what a social media marketer or what a producer would make in doing it for a job, as a working for a corporation, is working for somewhere else, and breaking it down that way. And these are the wages that you can look back and go, holy crap, yeah, this is, you know, it's incredible. And this again, as things start getting more and more functioning, and people start realizing what the value, because there is a value in creating a show, creating live streaming, because people now can download the video. You can have your social media marketing team handle it, break it down into micro content, and you have digital assets to share that people can see and know and see your face and your brand and everything that goes along with that. There's value in that, but it costs money to create that value, right? I had a conversation with a gentleman this week, and we were talking about value-based pricing of what it is to be a producer. Because a lot of them, here's the thing, Marco, a lot of them are getting into this and they don't know what to actually ask for a charge. And I think a lot of them are undervaluing their services. And I just want them to get what's fair. So that's where I'd like say, hey, pricing, I know it's scary, but you know what? Again, you keep searching until you find a client that'll say yes. And you get enough of those. You need, 3 or 4 really good clients like that. Man, you're gold. You
Yeah.
know, you handle it well, and you get a good rapport with them. Um, you know, then at that point, it's just word of mouth. People start knowing who you are. Hey, this guy's a really good producer. Talk to him. You know, and I think that's where I'm trying to push the stigma, saying, hey, this is the baseline, guys. This is where you need to start talking about pricing. And I know it's kind of scary, but again, this is what you want to do as your livelihood. And remember, you have to recoup costs for what you do as a producer, right? So even if you're hosting a show, you're paying for a service through either StreamYard or Restream or Be Live or Social Live or Switcher, whichever studio, whatever you're using, right? You're still using a service, um, and you have to recoup some of the costs. And because it's not, again, and it's not totally free without limitations.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And the other thing, yeah, the other thing it's which is important, and this is for me, it's one of the first things that it's not just clicking buttons. I don't know about you, but for instance, when I do remote producing, it's one day events, they long events. I
Hmm.
I just made a couple of host small shows, and when I say smalls, it's 1 hour, around
Hmm.
1 hour shows. So it's not but when it's half day, one day event, at the end, even though you're just clicking buttons, you are completely exhausted.
Exhausted. Yeah, because you have to be on point the whole time. You have to be observant of anything, because guess what? Who they're going to come to if something goes wrong, even if it's clicking
Yeah,
buttons, it's you.
yeah, absolutely.
So you have to be on top of everything as it's going on. So yeah, it can be tiring because mentally you're like, I believe me, I produced 24-hour live streams, and I'm like, oh, at the end you're exhausted. And even though you're sitting in there and you're all you're doing
Yeah,
is
yeah,
clicking
yeah.
buttons, it's the same thing. You're still, at the end of the day, you're exhausted because of what it is. So I understand that completely, and that's where I say it's not just clicking buttons. It's what you are, what's the value you're adding to that event or that small show or whatever it is. You are part of the process. So that's, and kind of like we're even growing even further where people are remote producers. Then you have people like that are like executive producers who handle not only the show but everything afterwards that goes along with it, right? So it's handling not only creating the process of a show, but then it's handling all your small stuff that you create afterwards. So it's all the micro content you create. So it's getting the social media out there, putting it out there, you know, getting things edited down, all that stuff, all the post production work. That's a lot. For those who have not never done that, you go try to edit a 2-hour show and try to make, you know, 10, 15, 30-second clips out of it that add value. You're sitting through the whole conversation. So you have to find tools and things that kind of simplify your process. But again, that's a lot of work. For anybody who has not um, ever done any kind of post production work and putting things together, and again, because you're, even though you have the content in front of you, you're creating something new that people are still going to be able to use down the road. I mean, Gary Vee does this, and his team do this all the time. What do you think a lot of people do over there at VaynerMedia? They just pump out micro content after they're on every social media platform they can get on. Um, you know, so that tells you the value and what lies of what you do as a creator. So that's where somebody who's an executive producer who does everything. I mean, you handle everything. Those guys get compensated very, very well because they have to know how to market the content afterwards as well. They have to be able to reach, and sometimes it's outsourcing it to a social media marketer to do these things. But you got to be able to do all these things and still reach whatever the objective your client is asking. So if it's this, if you hit those goals, if you hit the milestone, you're going to have a great relationship. But it takes a lot of work to get to that point. It's not easy, and everybody just assumes you're just sitting there in a chair chilling out, drinking whatever, and it's not. That's not the case. You are working. You are doing things that people will actually go, "Holy crap, that's a lot of work." So I tell people, DIY it yourself. Go see what happens. You
Yeah.
know, you the
And
go ahead,
yes, yes,
Marco.
yes. No, 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 no.
I was just
You,
saying. I just saying when they go out there and you tell them to DIY and you go do it yourself, when they realize the work that actually goes by, it, like, man, I was just trying to edit down a 30-minute clip, and it took me 3 hours. It's right. It took 3 hours because you're still figuring. You got to go through the process of knowing what to edit, how to cut things down, how to put things together. Will it work? How to make it all. It's not just sitting down, plug and play, and go, I got this. It's not easy. So that's why I tell people, if you can,
yes,
depend on the professional to do it for you.
yes. I was thinking lots of things while you were speaking, and one of the things I about about the do it yourself thing.
Hmm.
Uh, a friend of mine, which is a web designer from Spain, one of the most famous web designers, once he said to me this: "Look, you can do your website by yourself. You
Hmm.
can, but the thing is, have you ever made it good at the first time?
Yes, exactly.
Knockdown."
Exactly. That's a wow moment for me. You go, wow. You're right.
Yeah, because the thing is, and you were talking, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm, and the thing about this, let me share a secret with you. Usually, the cost of things here in Portugal, they are way below what, for instance, the in United States. So I'm
Hmm.
getting paid with the kind of United States standards, but I have a South European cost of life, which is
Yes.
good. Yes, but the thing is, and I do this remember process. How many hours I worked for free trying to understand how does it work, how how to work with Restream, StreamYard, the investment I made on gear, and even though, for instance, for Live Producer, I made a downgrade on my gear because
Hmm.
I don't need this microphone, I don't need these lights, I don't need this camera. So I have kind of uh, class B gear
Yes, exactly.
because I don't need. Okay, but the thing is, there were so many hours of practice, of lots of investment, and okay, when you can, you may be wondering, okay, I will be paying a lot of money, but do you want to make it by yourself? And besides the investment, it's the headache.
Hmm.
Because one of the things, and I there's this conversation, people, it's normal when you provide services, it's not a tangible thing, you can have them in the hands, okay, this is why it costs this. But the thing is, people, oh, you're getting this amount of money by 1 hour, and I say, well, you're not paying my hour, you're paying your time, it's
Hmm.
your headaches you're paying.
Hmm.
So it's 1 hour for me, but for you to do this, do you take just 1 hour?
Hmm.
Maybe not.
No.
Will you be safe and will you go to sleep comfortable? Maybe not. So that's what you're paying.
Yeah, you're paying for the peace of mind that I have, that I'm going to be able to do what you need to be done, and that's worth. That's why I said that's where all the value is right there. If I can take care of the things that you need to be done, and you don't have to worry about it, you know, you pay. People pay for that all the time. You can go look if you have a car, right? You have a car, you can go change your oil yourself. It can be cheaper to change your oil yourself, but are you? Is it? I mean,
Yeah.
you can go learn, go YouTube. YouTube will teach you how to change your oil. You can go watch videos on how to change your oil. But does that mean you're paying for it because somebody else can do it for me, and they can do it a lot faster and a lot faster and a lot better than I could? So you're saving somebody time, and that's what, to me, what's kind of the important part of this is that speed, quality, value. You're adding all these to somebody. These are all elements you're adding to somebody else's process. And for me, that's where I think remote producers have to understand that that's where their value lies, in doing all of these things. And you know what? It's like you said, even you don't have to have all this fancy gear, right? I mean, if you're doing content and that's what you're talking about, yeah, people are going to want to see that. You know, hey, if you're going on YouTube and you're talking about what I need here, the lighting and everything else, they're going to want to see the everything else that goes along with it. But you know what? There's guys in the background all the time that just handle everything else, that handle behind the scene. You don't even know. Some of these shows now, even these shows now that are highly produced that are talking about content, they have producers. They have people that handle the stuff for them, because I'm talking about this camera or I'm talking about this phone, and you need to know what it is, and they're gonna, so they don't have to go through and click the buttons and handle everything. They got producers to do these things, and that's what you don't get to see sometimes. Is that's why telling people to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit, and see who's, and let everybody who wants to kind of invest the time and the effort into becoming a remote producer. Because again, it's really, if you love live streaming and everything that goes along with creating and being creative, I know nothing better than to be involved in something like remote producing. Because even if you don't want to be in front of the camera, you can still share a lot of the things that you love doing. So I tell people all the time that, hey, this is, if you're interested in getting into this and doing it, exactly. There you go. That's, I love
Thank you,
Carl.
Carl.
That's the comment you need to understand,
It's
right?
and yes, this is told also here in business school and these kind of things. Even though sometimes people get afraid of saying this, but it's the thing. Yes, it's the old saying: tapping on a pressure canister to reduce the pressure. $1, knowing where to tap $1,000.
There you go, right? So
Absolutely.
so because Carl does streaming as well, and that's the whole thing about it, right? Um, Once you've kind of sat behind the chair and you've turned the camera on yourself and you've done it, and there's times where I was exhausted after doing my own show, because sometimes you can become emotionally invested in the conversation in what you're doing, so it takes a lot out of you. And then afterward, if you have somebody who's handling all of the other stuff on the sidelines and handling your handling the intro and the outro, and where to connect with people, and sending in the links of where people can go to find their content and everything, you have somebody who's handling all that, you can just concentrate on it. And when you're done, you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about downloading it. The producer's going to handle the download of the video. He's going to get everything, because you want to provide, again, the best presentation. You also want your guests to walk away saying, wow, that was the best show I've ever been on. You know, these people, they followed up with what I was doing. They sent me email reminders. They sent me a copy of the video. They sent me, these are all the great things that make a producer a producer worth his salt so much more valuable. So and again, I think it's like, it's emerging market. So guys like me and you, Marco, we can step out there and start training other people off the experiences that we've sort of developed on our own journey, and bringing that together and teaching people how to kind of step in without having to go through a lot of the same processes of having to, through experimentation and through, if I can give you the tips and shortcuts to kind of step into this, isn't that worth the value in its own? And say, hey, let me look, I'm going to tell you about this software. I'm going to tell you about this app you can use to cut down editing. I'm going to tell you about this in blank, 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 and teaching people how to put all this together and put you out on your own to go start finding your own clientele, or even having, like, at least maybe leads, and figuring out people to find clients and say, here, this person might need help. I mean, to me, I think there's a whole brand new world that's about to explode, and I just want to be sort of front and center for when it happens, because I'm like you, I've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into getting to where I am, as a, not only as a creator, but then as a producer. Because again, there's going to be a lot of us who are going to be able to step into going from virtual events to in-person events, and learning those experiences as well. So this leads to a whole another world of what can happen for creators. And I just want everybody to, again, because like this, Marco, imagine this. You're an accountant, right? As an example, you're an accountant. Even in over there where you're at, even in account, you can go on Indeed or Glassdoor and Google the going salaries for a accountant. So you kind of have a know what you kind of have a, you have a, a general idea of what that field sort of can net you if you put in the time and effort into it. So if I want to become an accountant, I could make $90,000 a year, or I can make this amount of money. That's, to me, that's where people say, okay, that's worth the investment of time you're putting into learning that skill, that craft, everything that goes in it. I think we don't have that yet, but we're establishing that. And I think that takes just everybody saying, okay, let people know this is the cost. This is what it is to get into the game. And it's not going to get cheaper. And you know what? You might find another producer somewhere that's a little bit cheaper. But sometimes just buyer beware. Um, you know, so I think as far as like what you as a you as a creator, you as a producer, you whatever, you're going to have the ability to say, this is my value, this is what I'm worth, and this is where it starts right here. This is the I think that's where I want people to know that, is to say, look, we can make money doing this. I mean, that's the whole purpose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. At least
Yeah,
on my side.
me too. Where I'm from, that's for me is as well. Yeah, I love I love the whole community aspect of it as well. But if I'm going to make this, if I'm pushing to make this my full time career, I have to be able to sustain.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I gotta be able to make sure that what I'm doing is going to be able to be enough for me to continue doing and chasing, and being passionate about what I love, just like everybody else does. So yeah, it's very sort of complicated and convoluted right now, but I'm trying to break that open a little bit more so people can kind of say, okay, now I kind of know what it is. So I think what it is letting people know like what basic services that you provide. I think that's a big one for a lot of producers, you know. So if you look at a job description for what it is to be a teacher, they're going to require, hey, I need a bachelor's degree, you're going to do this. They kind of lay out the description of what is your expectations as a person, that an employee that they're going to hire you, or even as a contractor, that whatever it is that they hire you at. Same sort of deal should be with us. These are the services that you're going to be providing as a quote unquote entry level showrunner. Blank, 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 and then to kind of lay it out. And then this is what you're going to be doing as a remote producer. I think if you establish those, and you put it out there, people will start paying attention to it, and somewhere or another, someone's going to say, "This is how it's supposed to be, chapter and verse." So I'm just saying, let's start doing that out there, construct it, and let people know this is what we do. So it kind of takes the whole idea of people not understanding what a remote producer is, because you still get that question: what does a remote producer do? And I'm pretty sure you've been asked the same thing as well. What do you do?
Yes, yes, yes. And there's this, because I don't know about you, but for instance, the other day I was talking with a friend, and I was explaining, for instance, because this is funny because I started my career as a marketing consultant,
Yeah.
and because I had to jump into this live streaming so people get to know me and everything, and suddenly I just land in an island of live producer. This- and I
Yes.
was explaining, something advantages of this job, for instance, comparing it to consultant,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a few.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asking me, because I don't know, I'm pretty sure that you live this as well,
Yeah.
when you go to these long events, when you don't have time to, almost, you just can't breathe, because you have to, uh, for instance, when you change from one room to another, because there's no time, for you just have to finish one room and then go to the another one and to start the session, and there you go. And
Yeah.
he asked me, um, oh, but you should, like, you should test and everything. And I said, okay, look, one thing, if, and he's a bike seller, if I go to your store, I buy a cycle, and an expensive one, can you guarantee that I will get the results?
Yeah.
And he said, well, no. So that's my point. If you hire me to do this, I can't do this and this because there's no time. Because, for instance, one of the things, and I'm sure that it happened with you as well, when the PowerPoint doesn't run or the sound is muted, they keep falling. It's hard when you don't have time to control this and to at least help, because there's time that you can do anything at all.
Yeah.
That's the end of story. The thing is, sometimes when you don't have the time, or you don't have the the the, the resources, you can't just do that. It's
No.
impossible. And for instance, I remember in a couple of events I was there, I didn't have time. For instance, in one, you don't even close the room. Okay, you were managing one session, and the next session was in the same room.
Yeah.
Okay, so for instance, you have this spots limitation,
Yeah.
and when they reached, because they were they were uh, good, a big amount of people.
Yeah.
Okay, and you couldn't manage everything at the same time, and test, for instance. Okay, because you were managing one room, and the next session was there as well. You can't do testing. So this is challenging, and you do, of course, you do the best you can do. Okay, but there's some things that you can't do, because for instance, I was doing managing a show, and they were the next session, people were start getting in. How
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
test that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, these are
Yes.
the work throughs that you have to figure out. Because again, like I said, since um, this is a developing field, and it's ever changing and ever evolving. There's gonna be situations where you're like, um, how can I learn to manage it? I think that's why, like, some of the technologies that get built are because of instances of stuff like that happening, and people needing to figure out a way to kind of control features now, like it's to control certain things that can and can't be done. Um, so, like I said, the technology that's around us as live stream creators is changing by the day. New options, new functions are being created. There are certain things that are being installed. So, as producers, we have to go out and start sort of learning those again, and learning how to master those and keep them, so that we can use those new functions that are being, shown to us, to help us just kind of maybe possibly make things easier. It's usually probably because it's going to be a solution to a problem that somebody's talked about before, and it's something that needs to be added in. I mean, StreamYard just added, like, using hotkeys. So hotkeys have been available, like, if you use the OBS, you have hotkeys. You've been able to use hotkeys before, and you learn how to set those up. But like, some people using an interface like StreamYard, now you're starting to learn what hotkeys are and why they're pretty valuable. Instead of you having to look for something, if you preset your things, I know where this is. Click, click, button, hotkey pulled up, transition pulled in, blah blah, whatever it is. You set these things up so you want to invite your guest in. You don't have to click the button. You don't have to go get your mouse. You don't have to pull them into the studio. You just click your hotkey, bam, they're inside there. You set up these things. So that's why learning how to use these functions and master these, this is part of our job as producers, is how to do this and learn these things, because people will at some point question, how does this work? What do you do with it? Oh, cool. I'll show you. I can do this. I've done this plenty of times. I mean, just like, as I said, the technologies around us has been introduced all the time. Like, StreamYard also announced on Sunday that they're using Teams. So if you
Yes.
haven't done Teams before, it's a great option if you have, multiple, especially for remote producing. I mean, it lets you create you as an admin in there now, and you can it's simply just a clicking into their link now. Now you don't have to go back there and do the second process of setting their destinations and hosting through it. Now it's just a one-stop place to go. I can put everything together. I can control everything from here. It's pretty much, you're now the producer. You can control and you can be in charge of everything without having to work around. It's pretty simple now. They've made the process a lot easier. So there's
Yes.
those are the wonderful things about all of this, is that our technology and everything else is changing, and so are we. So yes, Margot, remote producing, if you want to get into it, reach out, ask. There's quite a few of us out there on the especially on the LinkedIn platform that I know, if you reach out to me and you want to use a remote producer, if I'm unavailable, I can recommend a very good one to you who I've worked with and have a good rapport with, and it's a great community that we're all involved in, and I'm just trying to make it bigger for everybody.
Absolutely. Just we are about to reach the end. I was thinking about some skills that we need to have to become a good
Oh,
producer. Can you share some with us that for
yeah.
you they are important
Oh, yeah.
to master the field?
Absolutely. Now, it's not always just a technical thing you think about.
Yes, yes, it's a
It's
big
not
point.
just a
Yes.
technical thing. You got to have good people skills, number one, and you got to be able to communicate, because you're doing a lot of things, you know, where your client or whoever you're with have expectations. So be very clear in communicating things with whoever you're working with, or a potential client, or whatever. You have to be clear. You have to have people skills, because again, you're dealing with people. That's where our value lies. This technology is useless if we're not using the people and everything else around it. So those are two very key components of being able to do this, in wanting to be a producer. And then second, third thing that I tell a lot of producers, you got to understand and learn how to manage time and know how to use structure properly. Because these people, that's what they're expecting you to be organized and know how to handle things. You know how to manage your time properly. Hey, if I tell you I'm charging you 2 hours for this work, they're going to expect you to work for 2 hours and know how to manage that. Not to, you know, plus you're only double working yourself of a project that you've built out for 2 hours. It's taking you 4, right? Because of things that you didn't manage properly. So time management skills, if you don't have them, work on them. There's scheduling tools that help you kind of maximize these sort of things. Best efforts, best practices, and like I said, learn to build your structure. I think that's a big one. And how to operate as a producer. You got to be able to have the structure so that people know exactly what they're dealing with in being involved with you as their creator, essentially. So these are, letting them know what overlays are, letting them know all these pre-rolls, intros, creating all of these, what you have to be very structured to be able to put all this stuff together and do it in a timely fashion. Because if you're going to have multiple clients, which is the goal, you got to be able to work and fulfill the needs of all of them. So I think those are pretty key. So remember, people skills, communication, structure, time management. You learn how to do those things and you master those, you'll become a really, really great producer.
Perfect, perfect. And thank you. We have here Manish. Great session. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Manish. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate
We're
everybody showing up.
almost finished. But before finish, I have to ask you, please, Gabe,
Yeah.
how can people find you? Because I'm pretty sure that some of them, oh, how can I find this guy? He's so amazing.
So I I operate on only one platform, right? I'm concentrating solely on LinkedIn right now. Now I've done multiple platforms. You can find my content on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, streamed everywhere. Used every technology you can think of, OBS, all of it. I've messed around with it, explored with it, wanted to learn it, but I'm concentrating solely on LinkedIn right now because there's going to be explosion of a lot more content creators coming on the platform. Um, because again, number one, if you stream on LinkedIn, LinkedIn doesn't is the only platform that I know of that does not have their own native streaming tool. You have to use a third-party broadcasting tool. So what better way than to use the tools that we've already figured out and learned how to master ourselves to kind of teach other people how to do it. So I see that there's a lot of different content creators who are going to be showing up on the platform, especially now that this past week, they announced that if you have your creator mode turned on LinkedIn, you have now, and you've applied to LinkedIn Live to broadcast, you now have it, and you have it. You can go out there and start doing your own live streams and creating your own events and doing things. And believe me, I've been inundated with people asking for time, for asking questions, asking all of these things. So I'm trying to build sessions on how to simplify the process for a lot of them. So I do. I'm doing a live show on Friday, talk about strictly about using the other streaming tool, Restream. So if you're sponsored, sorry. And I'm going to be doing a clubhouse room talking about both StreamYard and Restream on Friday, which I will advertise as well. But hey, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am more than willing to connect. And if it's a simple problem I can help you with, which I've done for a few people, let's do that. If you're wanting to get into learning about remote producing or coaching, reach out to me as well, and we can schedule a private session and go from there.
Perfect. Muito obrigado, Arnaldo. Great
Thank you,
show.
brother. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it all the time. So, and catch.
Well,
hey, let me tell you real quick. Catch Marco's live. I post his guide on LinkedIn. You can follow the hashtag LinkedIn live streams if you're connected on LinkedIn with Marco. It'll take you directly to access to all his shows. Check out his Amazon live stream where he's who's the co-host that you do it with?
The amazing show. Well, I do my own shows all alone,
yeah.
and I'm co-hosting two shows.
Yes.
It's with Launch Your Live
Yes.
with Christian
Chris,
Karasiewicz from
yes.
StreamYard. And
Yes.
the other one is, well, this Launch Your Live is a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
Because we talk about live stream gear, live stream tips, and this kind of thing and strategies. And it's everything about live streaming. And also on Fridays, I co-host this with Ryan Swanson.
Yeah.
This
Ryan
is a
Swanson.
funniest one. It's the amazing show.
Yes.
And if you are wondering why we call it the amazing show, you have to tune in, because on each show at the beginning we explain why we call it the amazing show.
Yes. So again, you're seeing that Marco's out there doing it and creating, and this is how much passionate he's about it. It's even in his name on LinkedIn. So guys, if you get the opportunity, check him out. He's great. You'll love the content. You love what he talks about. If you're passionate about live streaming, you're going to learn a lot. So there you go, my friend.
Okay, and this was not talked before. Okay,
nope.
I didn't ask.
Nope. These are just recommendations that I'm saying, because that's the best way to learn how to do this. And a lot of times to learn to build your style is watching others and learning from others. So that's how I've sort of built myself up in learning with other individuals and seeing what they do and how they create. So anytime I can talk and pub another streamer who's out there and doing his thing and creating for the masses, I'm all about it. So check out Marco. Awesome individual. And it's a wonderful community, man. Come be a part of it. Come be a part of it. I tell people, come join.
Thank you so much, Gabé, and thank you so much for those of you who tuned in today. Yes. Thank you. Hope you had a great time, as I did. Thank you so much. Don't forget to take a look at this, at our sponsor, this amazing tool, SE Ranking, which allows you to find the best keywords on your website, also to find another keywords that who may help you to, because one of the things we want is to be seen on the first page or on Google. Okay, so this SE ranking will help you with that. I
Yeah.
can't guarantee that you will get the first page, but at least this will help a lot. Also, it will monitor your website, will give you good metrics about your website. You can
Yeah.
sneak at your competitors as well. Oh, who don't want to see that?
Hey, if people
So,
want to know you as the name to go to live streaming, SEO is the best way to get you right there front and center is to do it.
absolutely.
You know, SEO is used
Absolutely.
everywhere. YouTube, you name it, SEO's keywording is it's a magic tool that people need to utilize. So yes, go check them out.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So you can have the link in the description. Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias, Gabe.
ándale, muchas
Encantado de
gracias,
tenerte.
ándale.
So
Thank you.
I will be back soon. Stay tuned because I'm broadcasting almost every day. So tune in and join me on next broadcast. So bye bye. Enjoy
Bye
the rest
bye.
of the week. Bye bye.
Yes.